here, I mean, I've got all kinds of stuff. I got my kids' sports goods, and it's a pretty big area. It's also where you'll find. Welcome to Drive Culture. I'm Jonathan Rivers, and today we have the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition. And I'm going to tell you why this might be one of the most overlooked mid-size trucks on the market today. We'll go over the exterior, the interior, the powertrain, and of course, take it for a drive. So if this is content you're after, or you're new to the channel, please be sure to click that bell to subscribe to come back for more. And with that, let's get after it. All right, here we are with the exterior of the Ridgeline Black Edition. Now, 2024 was essentially a mid-cycle refresh for Ridgeline. And with that, you got a lot of enhancements to, styling, features, technology, and they also even adjusted the trim structure for Ridgeline. So it's pretty easy to remember. There's really only 4 trims. For 2024, it starts with the Sport trim, and that's like just under $40,000. So pretty good pricing altogether. From the Sport, you can get the RTL, which obviously adds some good feature content. From RTL, you can get the new TrailSport trim. So if you guys are familiar, or if you've seen our review on the Pilot TrailSport, you kind of know that that's Honda's all-in rugged trim. Actually get some good off-road upgrades. So let us know if that's of interest to you. We can also do a Ridgeline TrailSport review. Let us know down in the comments below. But today, again, we're focusing on the Black Edition, which is like the fully loaded version of Ridgeline. So again, the pricing, starts just under $40,000 for Sport. And this Black Edition here is just over $46,000 MSRP. So again, pretty competitive pricing, and maybe not too much given all the features and content you get. But let's look specifically at the Black Edition. So up front, you get this special kind of rugged grille, but it's all black, right? So I think it's funny actually, because again, it's Black Edition, but the car is white. So that's something that Honda updated in the life cycle of Ridgeline. Previously you could only get Black Edition and exterior color being black, but now it's offered in a couple different color options, white being one of them. But I actually kind of like it because again, you can see where all the black accents are and the upgrades for the Black Edition. So things like the brow on the leading edge, that's normally like a chrome. It's blacked out here. You get the black accent on a grille. The Black Edition badge, which is also a nice touch, and down below even like the gloss black accent, which again kind of helps to bring the whole rugged truck image together. It does have fog lights, LED low beam headlights, and then again, one of the main upgrades is the wheel and tire package. So here you got a 245 60R 18, and again, painted in gloss black, and you do get black lug nuts, which is a nice touch. So again, this isn't the total off-road spec that you get on something like the TrailSport, but some pretty good all-season tires that should be good for very light off-road duty. Here you can also see you get like a black mirror cap, the black window treatments. Down below, it's kind of a mold and color black. You get to see the same wheel package. It's a square setup all the way around. But one of the big changes for 2024 with this mid-cycle refresh is this right here. It's the rear of the car. So what they did is they actually stamped in the name Ridgeline into the tailgate, which I really like, guys. Let us know down in the comments below what you think. I think just that simple a change alone kind of makes it look more truck-like and a little bit more rugged. Again, they still kept the Honda badge and chrome down there on the left. And then if you get things like the TrailSport, they obviously have special badging for that. But again, I think just that little touch really makes this truck look pretty good now. And you got the chrome dual exhaust finishers, and you also have a standard class 3 trailer hitch down below. So some pretty good features and technologies. So real quick, being a truck, let's go ahead and check out the bed and all the little tricks it can do. All right, guys, let's talk about the tailgate and the functionality. Obviously, that's a pretty critical part of a pickup truck, right? you know, some of these changes that we're going to talk about didn't come with this mid-cycle refresh. This is how the Ridgeline has always been, but there have been some changes throughout the life cycle that we'll point out. So, you know, one of the cool things is, like any truck, you know, you got your, you know, your pull handle here. You'll also see the rear view camera that's kind of like nicely integrated right next to that. So of course, like any pickup, you can pull this and you can lower it down, and pretty easy to do, not too heavy. You can see it's a pretty good sized bed in here. You know, in the mid-size segment, it's competitive. It does have kind of a lay flat bed to it, and it's a pretty good material. I know when this car launched, they made this whole big deal about, you know, the material and being very durable, you know, given if you're throwing stones and other things that might typically scratch up your bed. So it's nice that that is a pretty good material there. But again, one of the cool things about Ridgeline is you've got this, you know, kind of underfloor storage area here. But admittedly, when you pull the liftgate down like this, you know, you're kind of reaching over this. So like a lot of trucks, it does have a kind of multi-function tailgate here. And what's really cool is actually here on the bumper, it actually says release and it has a little arrow there. So it shows you where you actually have to reach under to do the swing action tailgate. So when you do that, see, now it just kind of swings wide open. Now, obviously there's certain situations where you can't open it like that, but what this does is it makes it so much easier to get to this underfloor area. And what's cool is it's lockable. You know, you can use your valet key there, but pretty much opens up and it's locked, right? You heard the beep. And inside here, I mean, I've got all kinds of stuff. I got my kids' sports goods, and you know, it's a pretty big area. It's also where you'll find the compact spare and the jack for the car. Let us know down in the comments below, is that okay for you? I mean, obviously, if you load the bed up with a bunch of stuff, you're not going to be able to access that. But anyway, the fact that it's included, I think for me, is a bonus. So it's a pretty cool, you know, trunk bed, honestly. One thing that they also changed is at one point in the life cycle, they had this kind of like built-in bed audio system with Ridgeline, kind of making it this, you know, tailgate eccentric type of vehicle. They've actually removed that. That doesn't have that feature anymore. So again, let us know down in the comments below. Did you actually use that? Did you want that? Maybe it was just a gimmick, but anyway, I kind of thought it would have been cool just to keep it in there. So let us know your thoughts down below. And with that, let's go ahead and check out the interior. All right, guys, here we are inside the Ridgeline Black Edition. And with it being a mid-cycle refresh, there actually are just a few key change points that we'll call out. Again, you might be familiar with the Ridgeline. It's been around for obviously a few years. But again, they made some updates to the infotainment, and we'll talk about some of those key change points. So first and foremost, let's actually go ahead and focus in on the steering wheel here. So the steering wheel was actually updated with this mid-cycle refresh. They actually changed the buttons and the layout here on the steering wheel. So some of that was basically due to the digital instrument cluster that they updated, as well as the infotainment system. So they kind of had to change the layout and the buttons there. But I think it's a much better execution in this version. The other ones were kind of a little bit more touch sensitive and like haptic feedback type of switch gear. So I like these kind of physical buttons and rollers that they added to the steering wheel. Also, you'll notice right there behind the steering wheel, that instrument cluster. So that is new. Let's go ahead and zoom in on that. So you can see for 2024, they changed it, and now it's different. You know, it kind of had that central digital instrument cluster in the middle before. Now that's been pushed off to the left. So this is what you would expect on the new Civics and the Accords and CRVs. So Ridgeline has really just been brought into line with the other Honda models. So simple speedometer to the right, but customizable instrument cluster to the left. And even the oil temp gauge has been like integrated into that digital instrument display. So again, 7 inches in size. Let us know if you would have wanted a full, you know, maybe 10.2 inch digital instrument cluster. But again, it's a big improvement over what it was before. Also, let's go ahead and look at the central display here. So it is a 9-inch color touchscreen, so it got bigger. And honestly, I think it got a lot better. So it uses the kind of newer software that Honda uses in their systems. It does have wireless CarPlay and Android Auto now. So again, for me, that's a big win. But it's kind of really nicely actually integrated into the dash. Let us know your thoughts. Would you have wanted it to kind of, stick up a little bit more? It's because it is kind of on an angle actually. And so while you're driving, you do have to get a little used to the angle that it sits in. But again, I think the upgrades that they made and the software enhancements were worth the trade-off. You do have, again, physical buttons for the HVAC. You do on the Black Edition get not only heated seats, but you also get ventilated seats. And you also get a heated steering wheel. So that's the button on the right of the steering wheel there. So it's nice that it's right there in easy reach. You also do get a USB-A for data, USB-C for charging, and then a wireless charging pad. With the Ridgeline here, we'll talk about the powertrain in a second, but you can see it's a push button style gear selector. All of your basic functionality, including the ability to turn off idle stop. And there's also kind of a drive mode selector there. So we'll talk about that there in the drive component. 2 large cup holders there as well. And then again, overall, it's, again, like I said, this wasn't a full redesign. So you might expect more upgrades in the future versions of Ridgeline. But again, for the mid-cycle refresh, I think they made some nice touch points. And this Black Edition has some other good things that we'll call out here when we go look at the front seats. All right, here you can see the front seats of the Black Edition trim. They are leather. They do say Black Edition. It's stitched in on both the driver and passenger. You got 10-way power seats on the driver's side, 4-way power on the passenger side, and you even get Black Edition on the floor mats as well. There's red stitching throughout on the steering wheel, on the seats, the center console area. So again, there are some, pretty nice Black Edition specific upgrades. And yes, you do get a sunroof, moonroof, if you will. So again, it's got some pretty good features and content. And then even on these seats, you can see here in the back bolster and seat bolster, there's actually a perforation there and kind of like this red coloring behind it. So kind of stands out. It's almost like a two-tone interior. So let us know your guys' thoughts on that. And with that, let's go ahead and look at the rear seats and how they can move and adjust. All right, here's the rear seats of the Ridgeline Black Edition. So you get that same kind of design scheme here as well with all the red accents, the red stitching. Again, they didn't cheap out in the back, so that's good. But again, with it being a truck, it's got some cool functionality. So the seats are, you can see they're kind of like a 60-40 split. It is a 5-passenger vehicle, so you do have that center armrest and even like this little headrest that like pops up. So that's kind of cool. I do have a booster seat in the back, so you can see like how much space there is. That's with the passenger in a pretty good spot. So it is a little tight, right? There's not a ton of space back there, but again, I think in its competitive segment, it's probably right on par. And then again, on the driver's side, you can see that's my driver position, so you can see how much space is there. But one of the things I wanted to show you is, bear with me here, you can see Ridgeline's got this pull handle down here, and if you pull that, essentially you can like kick these seats up, and it's really nice because like once you do that, sorry about that, there we go, they clicked in a spot. So once they're there, again, I did that one-handed while holding the camera, so they're not heavy, but it's cool. Like it gives you all this extra underfloor storage and space. You can obviously lift up the other side as well, but I got the booster seat there right now, and you can see like essentially this like metal bar like automatically like folds in when you go ahead to put the seats back. And now this time should be a little bit easier here. If I click that, pretty much they just fall right back into place. You heard it click, that metal bar came down, and now your seats are back to normal. So that's some extra functionality that they got built into the Ridgeline. So with that, let's go ahead and talk about the powertrain. All right, guys, here we are with the powertrain of the Ridgeline Black Edition. So it is Honda's, 3.5 liter V6 engine. It's been around for a long time. This isn't the newer V6 that is in the updated Honda Pilot. Again, you can check out our review on the Honda Pilot TrailSport for that. But again, this engine's been around for a long time. It's pretty powerful. So 280 horsepower, 262 foot-pounds of torque. and it's made it exclusively to Honda's 9-speed transmission. So again, this Ridgeline was a mid-cycle refresh, so doesn't get the 10-speed transmission just yet. But honestly, in this last generation of 9-speed transmission software and tuning, it's pretty good now. We'll show you and talk a little bit more about how it shifts and everything once we go for a drive. Also, you get the IVTM4 torque vectoring all-wheel drive system that Honda uses with this Ridgeline. So overall, it's a really robust powertrain. It's gotten really refined. So there's no better way than to prove that out than to go ahead and take this thing for a drive. So let's go ahead and hop inside. All right, here we are inside the Ridgeline Black Edition. We're gonna go ahead and take this thing for a drive. So go ahead and get it started up. Yeah, so right off the bat, like I said, I think the improvements to the gauge cluster, that was definitely needed. The improvements to the infotainment system here makes a big difference. But let's go ahead and just take it for a drive, see how it handles everything. Like I said in the powertrain section, this uses Honda's 3.5 liter V6 engine, so I think everyone's pretty familiar with it. That powertrain and engine has been around for a long time, but again, it's not like showing its age. It's really, really good. It's pretty powerful. And again, I think it gives lots of power to this car. I also mentioned that it has Honda's IVTM4 torque vectoring all-wheel drive system. It's also really good. And again, like I said, I think it sometimes gets overlooked because the true torque vectoring capability that that system has really makes this thing like a beast in, like, you know, the snow and driving conditions. And again, I think overall, you know, people sometimes write this truck off, oh, it's not a real pickup truck or whatever else, but I think you have to take it for a drive to understand its real capability. So right off the bat, I wanted to talk about some of the drive modes. There's a button down here. Basically you push it and it cycles through. So what it shows you is the default is normal, but there's also things like snow, mud, and sand. So like I said, they're utilizing that torque vectoring all-wheel drive system to really, you know, control the traction, control the torque and the distribution, given the type of road and surface that you're driving on. So for me, I'm just on normal pavement, so I'm gonna go back into normal mode and we'll drive it there. So you'll see that there was no direct sport mode, but essentially here on the push button gear selector, like a lot of other Hondas and even Acuras, you do have this D/S. So if you push it in D, that's your normal drive mode. I don't know if you saw the Cybertruck I just drove by, but you also will see that there's even an S as well. So if I go ahead and push that, that puts it into S mode. So that's kind of the only way to get into a sport mode here on the Ridgeline. And right off the bat, you know, again, you can see it likes to rev out, and it really has a pretty good growl to it. Let me go back into drive and let's check it in normal here. Yeah, again, I think the you know, the torque in this car is pretty good. You know, again, Honda doesn't ever really talk about 0 to 60 times, and I'm not going to focus on that so much either. I mean, again, given that this is a pickup truck, but it does have a lot of power. No problem, you know, merging onto the freeways. No problem, obviously, passing and things like that too. It actually has pretty good performance. And as I'm kind of going up here, I'm in some pretty good twisties and whatnot. Yeah, it has good power, and that typical like Honda growl, that V6 engine, like I said, the J35 still sounds really good in this car. Again, visibility is also pretty good in this car too. You know, it's only a you know, kind of a mid-sized cabin, so it is, like I said, looking at the back seats and stuff, it's a little bit on the tighter side, but you know, that doesn't compromise visibility. Honda gave you some extra little glass and, you know, windows up here on the front, so you still got good visibility out of the A pillars and out of the rear as well. One thing that I maybe didn't call out in the interior portion is, you know, I mentioned the moonroof that you have, but there's also a split window leading out to the bed, and it's actually power. So there's a little switch up here, and you can actually open and close that window. So I think that's a nice function to have to, you know, let some more air in, or if you wanted to try to like have something sticking out of there, that central portion of the glass window at least opens up, and I think that's pretty nice. But again, driving it here, honestly, this car again has, pretty good MVH. It's, it's quiet, it's comfortable. Now, like I said, for 2024, they did offer a TrailSport trim. That's going to have the all-terrain tires and the different ride height and things like that. So maybe the MVH is a little bit more compromised on that trim. But here on the Black Edition, to me, it kind of feels like the rest of Honda's, Touring and Elite, their top trims, which means it gets all the features, gets a little bit extra sound deadening and things like that. And I think that's totally true with this Ridgeline here. Again, fuel economy, again, it's like 18, 24, 21. We'll put the numbers down below. So again, competitive. I think if you drive this thing normally, you can get pretty good fuel economy. One thing that I can point out is off to the left here on the driver's side, it's not in with the rest of the drive modes, but there's an actual econ mode button as well. So they still have that on Ridgeline. And if I push that, you get a little like green leaf in the digital instrument cluster to let you know it's now in econ mode. And I can tell right off the bat, the throttle response gets dialed back. You don't get that shove anymore. I don't know if it changes anything with the sound, but I think inherently, just because you're not getting the full power anymore, it kind of mutes the engine sound. Here I'm in econ mode, and okay, if you floor it, finally you get a little bit of power out of it, and you get a little bit of that sound, but clearly that's trying to get the best fuel economy, the best MPGs out of this thing. I'm gonna go ahead and turn that off. Also down here on the left, they got things like parking sensors. It's got the lane keeping assist. So like all Hondas, it has their full Honda sensing suite of safety features, but it also has a couple more buttons down here on the left. It's got a heated wiper park system. So again, if you're in bad inclement weather, it'll heat the front windshield wipers. That's a nice feature. It also has lights for the cargo bed too. So you can basically manually turn on the lights in the bed of the truck here. So again, that's pretty nice. And there's also a button down here that says AC 115 volt socket. So that's on the Black Edition. There's a special outlet there in the bed, and you can basically manually power that on and off here in the cabin as well. So again, there's a lot of functionality, again, knowing that it's a pickup truck, but we'll go ahead and just give it one good thrust here. And there's 45. So again, it's not a barn burner, it's not meant to be, but it sounds good. It definitely sounds good. And there was some good acceleration and pickup there. So again, I think overall it's a pretty good package. And again, being a pickup, it's actually pretty fun to drive. So let us know down in the comments what you guys think. Is this enough truck for you? Do you have to step up to a full size, or you need some Raptor, right? I think everybody's after some, really kind of rugged off-road style vehicle these days. But for me, I think if you're just doing, Home Depot runs, going to Lowe's, and you just needed a good enough bed to carry things, this might be a pretty good option. So again, let us know your guys' thoughts down below. And with that, we'll go ahead and wrap up this video. All right, guys, that's a wrap. What did you think of the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition? Did it have all the tech and features and all the truck goodness that you expected from a midsize truck in this segment? Let us know down in the comments below. Let us also know, again, if you want to see that Ridgeline TrailSport on the channel as well. Happy to bring you that review. And with that, again, if you're new to the channel, please be sure to subscribe, come back and watch the rest of our videos, and we'll see you at the next episode.